Being vulnerable with my community, I was actually really disappointed. Not in the vulnerability of my audience, but in the women who shared their pain. There was one or two comments in particular that really stopped me cold. There was one woman who wrote about how she only receives a really small amount of financial support from her ex-husband. And I'm talking like $10 a week. What I have seen is that victimhood has become a currency and women are spending it like it's going to make them rich, and it won't. I did not get left in my marriage. I made the decision to leave. I made the hard decisions, and they were also considered. Welcome to Rich and Regulated, where women learn to build wealth in alignment and flow. I'm Jessica Soul. For over a decade, I've helped women create the lives of their dreams, and here I'll share how I build wealth, fast-track results, and reveal money truths that will blow your mind. Let's get wealthy. Today, I want to talk about something that happened a few weeks ago and that I personally have not been able to stop thinking about. I shared something pretty vulnerable online. I talked about what my life looked like during my separation. So the debt, the financial abuse, and the reality of what it looked like to rebuild from scratch with two young children. And I shared one reel in particular, and it got about 80,000 plus views, which was a lot for me. Thousands of shares and women flooding in to the comment section, sharing their own stories. And I sat with that response for days because something about all of these women sharing their stories didn't actually sit right with me. And so I've been trying to figure out exactly how to say this ever since. And so today, here it is, unfiltered. And yeah, I say this all with love, but at the same time, I kind of have to get it off my chest, right? So at the end of the day, after posting that reel and sharing my story and being vulnerable with my community, I was actually really disappointed. Not in the vulnerability of my audience, but in the women who shared their pain, not in the realness of what people were carrying. I was disappointed in what was missing, because what was missing almost entirely, when I look at it from my perspective, was resourcefulness from the women that were commenting. And I know that might hurt. It was missing celebration, right? It was missing any version of, here's what I'm actually doing about my problems. And what I saw instead was just a pile on, a collective exhale of grievance. So women lined up to share how little their ex-husbands were contributing and how badly the system had failed them, how unfair everything was. And look, some of that is really real. A lot of it is real. But there was one or two comments in particular that really stopped me cold, and I want to address it. There was one woman who wrote about how she only receives a really small amount of financial support from her ex-husband. And I'm talking like $10 a week. So pretty bad, right? She positioned herself right in the thick of this comment section and right in the thick of this victim conversation. What I could see, however, and I want to say this clearly, I do not know this woman's full circumstances. And so I'm not here to judge, because I know that some of you are going to hate on me for saying this. So I'm not here to judge what I don't fully understand. But from the outside, she appears to be living an incredibly beautiful life. So I saw her comment, and then I looked at her feed. I looked at her page. A stunning home in Australia overlooking the ocean, a significant following on social media, a brand, a new partner, a career, and resources that most women would consider extraordinary. And she was in my comments section talking about what she wasn't receiving. And now I want to be really careful here, because I do mean this with genuine compassion. I don't know what is happening behind closed doors for that woman, but what I do know is that the energy that she brought to that space, the energy that thousands of women brought with her, it was not the energy of someone who has decided to rise. It was the energy of someone wanting to be rescued. And that energy, however it's understandable, will keep you broke every single time. Because what I have seen is that victimhood has become a currency, and women are spending it like it's going to make them rich, and it won't. Now, before I go any further, I want to be really clear with something, because the story I told in that episode got misrepresented in how some people received it. And I take responsibility for not being clearer. I did not get left in my marriage. I made the decision to leave. I made the hard decisions, and they were also considered decisions. I took full responsibility for those decisions, and I dealt with the consequences of them with every resource I had. There was no villain in my story. There were two people who were not right for each other, circumstances that became untenable, and a woman who chose to move forward, aka me, regardless of the cost. And so I share my story not for sympathy. I share it so that you can see what is possible when you decide that your circumstances do not get to determine your outcome in life. And that is the conversation I actually want to have with you today, because here's what I see every single day in my work. And I'm going to say this with love, but also without apology. Yes, some fathers do not step up financially. That is real, and it is not okay. Yes, the government support for single mothers in this country, I believe, is inadequate. Under $1,000 a fortnight to raise children in one of the most expensive countries in the world is a disgrace. Yes, the system is not designed for women rebuilding their lives. The tax system, the family court system, the banking system, none of it was built with that woman in mind. So all of that is true, and I have sympathy for that truth. But guys, we also live in a world where anyone, and I mean literally anyone with a phone, an internet connection, and a decision to show up can build real income, life-changing income. Not overnight, not without effort, but it is available to everyone. More available than it has ever been in human history. Just quickly, guys, if you're a woman who's earning well but still feels like your money isn't working for you, I can help. My Build Your Wealth portal is the perfect place to begin, and for less than $100 a month, I'll teach you the exact groundwork that has allowed me to create freedom for my family. Just hit the link in the show notes to connect into my community today. Now back to the episode. See, there are women right now building six-figure businesses from their kitchen benches, women generating passive income from crypto portfolios that they built from scratch with no financial background. Women who came into my community, all 550 of them, with nothing but a willingness to learn and a decision that waiting was no longer an option. And so where is this energy in the comments section coming from, right? Where are the women saying, yeah, it's hard, and here's what I built anyway? Where is the courage? Where is the tenacity? Where is the visibility, right? The willingness to be seen building, to be seen failing, to be seen getting back up. Where's the discipline of showing up even when it's uncomfortable? Where's the decision making, the ability to look at your circumstances, ladies, and say, you know what? This is not the end of my story. This is actually the beginning of it. And while I'm not asking you for perfection, I am saying, let's have some direction, because here's what I know to be true. The women who build real wealth, and I have watched hundreds of them do it, they're not the women who had the most easiest of circumstances. They're the women who refused to let their circumstances be the reason they stayed small. And I want to talk about the men in the comments section too, because there were plenty of them, some of them who I had to block, but some of them who said what was worth addressing. You know, there were men saying, what about the fathers who do show up and get pushed out? What about the men who are judged, criticized, kept from their children by a family court system that doesn't serve them fairly? And I want to say clearly, that is a real injustice, because those men deserve to have that acknowledged. But I also want to say this, a man who is truly whole, who has done his healing, who operates from a place of genuine integrity, that man will never have to ask himself whether he should do the right thing by his children. That question doesn't arise for him. The fact that it becomes a question tells you everything about where that man is in his own journey. And that conversation, as important as it is for another episode, because today I am here for the ladies. So I've been an entrepreneur since I was 17 years old, and I'm nearly 42. And I have made catastrophic decisions along the way. I have rebuilt more times than most people would only attempt once. And I'll give you a little bit of context. So the week that my son was born, he's now 8 years old, that same week, I generated $16,000 in commission from a network marketing business. Now, not because conditions were perfect, not because I had a safety net, because I had made a decision way back then 8 or 9 years ago that my circumstances were not going to be my ceiling. And that decision, not the money, not the strategy, not the program, but that decision is what changed everything for me and why I am where I am today. And so here's what I want to leave you with today. And this is your takeaway. I want you to sit with this deeply. Whatever your hardest circumstance is right now, the ex who is not contributing, the debt, the job that isn't working out, the relationship that broke you, the years you feel like you lost, I want you to consider the possibility that this is not your limitation, babe. This is actually your asset. Because the women who have been through hard things and have kept moving, they have something that no amount of privilege can buy. She has proof that she can survive, proof that she can rebuild, proof that when everything falls apart, she didn't fall apart. And that proof, that lived experience embodied, is unshakable. It is the most powerful foundation any wealth strategy can be built on. So I want you to know that your story is not your excuse. It is actually your evidence. And the question is not whether you have what it takes, because you already have proven that you do have what it takes. The question is whether you're willing to redirect the same energy, like the energy you've been pouring into surviving and victimhood, into building something worthwhile. And that is the shift. That's the whole shift. If you're ready to make it, come and find us inside of my Crypto for Women space. It's completely free. We've got over 550 women in there now that have decided that their hardest challenges and their hardest chapters are actually going to be the making of them, not the defining of them. So the link is below. And if this episode stirred something in you that you're not quite ready to act on, sit with it. I understand. Ask yourself honestly, where are you giving your power away? Ask yourself what you're waiting for. Ask yourself what becomes possible in the moment that you decide to stop waiting, because I can tell you that moment is available to you right now. If you've gotten value from today's episode, make sure you subscribe and leave a 5-star review. And if you're ready for more support in building regulated wealth strategies, check out the link in the show notes. Have a beautiful day.